We're going to start informal fallacies, so we're starting on chapter 3, and I'm going to go over section 3.1 and about half of 3.2, and that'll be this first lecture capture video, and then there'll be a second lecture capture video after that that will continue with 3.2 and finish that up. Okay, before we go on to the other videos that will cover all the material in chapter 3. Okay, informal fallacies. Let me read this first paragraph here for you. As we have seen so far, premises can fail to support a conclusion for a variety of reasons. Some special cases of failure have been given names and have been classified as informal fallacies. There are specific kinds of error, these are specific kinds of error in the content of an inference, and a lot of these errors have nothing to do with a bad structure or argument form or skeleton. Okay? There are other kinds of errors, so that's why they don't call them formal fallacies or having to do with the form or the skeleton, but they're more all just various other types of errors people make unintentionally or intentionally to create the illusion that a bad argument is a good one. Okay? And some of these errors are so common that they give names to them. Okay? And sometimes these errors, and they'll call them fallacies, they try to get you to accept a conclusion, not because there's good logical reasons to do so, but because you feel pity, right? Because you feel fear or you have a sense of camaraderie. Those are not the reasons you should accept a conclusion all by themselves, okay? You should accept a conclusion because there's good reasons. You remember in chapter 1, an argument, the premises have to be propositions that are either true or false. Evidence, facts, good reasons, and then we say these premises imply something else, and your reasons give you a logical inference to accept the conclusion. But if you're accepting a conclusion not for logical reasons, but like I said, pity or certain emotions, or someone's manipulating with you psychologically, then these are fallacies, and those are not the reasons you should accept any conclusion. Okay? So here they kind of have some examples. Some fallacies work by getting the reader or listener to feel various emotions, like I said, such as fear, pity, or camaraderie, and then they attach a certain conclusion to these emotions. And maybe I can say something here about, people who are really good manipulators, here's what they do. They see a need in a person and they find out a way to meet it because they know human beings are swayed by more than just logical reasons. I mean, let's say here's the human being and we all have a will, right? Well, our will is pulled by evidence. Okay? So you could have a whole bunch of evidence, a mountain of evidence, but other humans know that human beings are also pulled, the will, by pity, by fear, need to be approved, to be, have approval. Sorry, this pen is a little glunky right now. I'll get better at it. So need for approval or fear or pity, the will can go in that direction also. And a lot of times these fallacies try to get you to accept a conclusion for these reasons and not because the evidence is there. Okay, other types of fallacies attempt to discredit an opposing argument by attacking the character of the person giving the argument. Okay, this is called ad hominem. Granted, you could have someone with a bad character, just a scumbag, but even a scumbag can give a good argument. So if someone gives an argument, analyze the argument. Don't say the argument's not good because the person giving it is an unsavory person. Okay, so we'll talk about those. And then there are those that take advantage of various dispositions on the part of the reader or listener, such as superstition or mental laziness, to get him or her to accept a conclusion. Okay? So here's the plus with all this. By studying the typical ways in which arguers apply techniques, one is less likely to be fooled by the fallacious arguments posed by others, or to stumble blindly into fallacies when constructing arguments for one's own use. So when you get familiar with these, you will not allow other people to manipulate you, propagandize you, get you to accept a conclusion. You shouldn't. You should only accept conclusions because there are good reasons, and at the same time, if you're aware of all this, these fallacies, you yourself will not use them. And so this actually brings up something you need to think about, okay? If you want to be an ethical human being, okay, you need to be responsible with your rational faculties, okay? Be ethical with your ability to reason, okay? You can argue in an unethical way, and you can argue in an ethical way. If you're ethical, you will not try to use these fallacies, right? If you're unethical, you will use them. And here's the other thing that maybe you can think about. Whenever you get in discussions with people and you are having a discussion, you are putting forth arguments, you're trying to persuade another person, they're trying to persuade you, be more concerned with what is the truth here, right? And less with winning an argument. If you can give up the need to win, then you'll be more relaxed and you're just here to have a good discussion with someone and you just want to know what is true. You know, what is the truth of the situation? This is really what I'm concerned about. It'll help you not be so concerned about winning an argument that you may be unethical. You may change the subject when you're losing. You may try to appeal to pity, attack the character of someone. Think of your character, think of your integrity, and if you want to develop that, you won't want to use these fallacies. Okay, now, when you go to several different logic textbooks, authors will group these fallacies under different groups. Hurley uses fallacies of relevance, which is what we will talk about today. Then he's got another group, fallacies of weak induction, fallacies of presumption, fallacies of ambiguity, fallacies of grammatical analogy, and some logicians, you know, think there's 90 to 100 informal fallacies. Others group them into a lot less, and Hurley, fortunately, we're going to be going over 22 of them. Okay? And so this phraseology that Hurley uses, it's like they're family resemblance groups, okay? And if you go to 3.1 in your text, you know, there's 4 start problems. These are the same that I have my students do in my face-to-face class. And by the way, this handout is the very same handout I pass out in class to my face-to-face students. You're getting the same handout. You're getting the same exact type of lecture. These, if you practice these problems are to have you look at something and decide, is this an informal fallacy or is this a formal one? And we, in Chapter 3, are going to be dealing with informal fallacies. Okay, so with that said, let's go to fallacies of relevance, okay? Fallacies of relevance. So we're going to talk about this first family group here. I'll go about half of these. I'll go to the first 3 or 4, and then on the next lecture capture video, the link will be right after this one in your overview section, and I'll give you instructions on all this through an email. The second lecture capture video will finish section 3.2 up, okay? So let's talk about fallacies of relevance. What they do is they share the common characteristic that arguments in which they occur have premises that are logically irrelevant to the conclusion. Meaning there isn't a logical connection. You remember, a good argument uses facts and reason, and logic implies these facts and reason mean that you should believe, or people are trying to get you to believe, a conclusion. The reasons people, when they use these fallacies, are trying to get you to accept a conclusion is something other than logical reasons. It's emotional and psychological, and this will become clear. So here's the first one. Appeal to force. You know, this argumentum ad baculum, don't worry about that. I don't care if you know how to do say the Latin word. I never use it. I just say appeal to force. Okay, so what is this one about? You will accept the conclusion not because it logically follows, but because some harm will come to you if you don't accept the conclusion. This threat can often conceal the fact that the premises don't logically imply the conclusion. I will keep kind of repeating this motif a bit, okay? Notice with these arguments, you're to accept a conclusion, but the reasons are not logical. So child to playmate. Teletubbies is the best show on TV, okay? That is the conclusion, right? But what is the reason? And if you don't believe it, I'm going to call my big brother over here and he's going to beat you up. So you need to accept that Teletubbies is the best show because of force. You're going to get beat up. That's not why you should accept it's the best show. You should accept it because there are good reasons, like there's a lot of research in pedagogy and how children learn, and it's got good morals, and it's entertaining, and kids always learn something, and the vocabulary is high. That's why it's the best show. Here, they're using force to get you, I'm going to beat you up. That is why you need to accept this conclusion. Okay? Secretary to boss. I deserve a raise and a salary for the coming year. After all, you know how friendly I am with your wife, and I'm sure you wouldn't want her to find out what's been going on between you and that sexpot client of yours. So, I deserve a raise is the conclusion, but the reason is if you don't give me a raise, I'm going to blackmail you, right? It should be, I want you to look at my performance, and if you're smart, you will connect and tie your performance to the fact that that's why that company has made more money because of you. Okay? So let's go to the next one, appeal to pity, and I'm going to repeat the same thing here. You will accept the conclusion not because it logically follows. That's what a good argument should do. The conclusion should logically follow. Here, you're not using logical reasons. You're using reasons that are irrelevant to logic to accept a conclusion. So your reason is because you feel pity for the arguer or third party. Don't accept this because it logically follows, but accept it because you feel pity. So here's an example. Your Honor, I admit that I really don't have 13 children, so claiming 13 dependents isn't right. But if you send me to jail, my reputation will be ruined. Here's the pity. My family will become destitute. Therefore, please conclude that I am not guilty. So, Your Honor, please believe I'm not guilty or conclude. And the reason is this is what's going to happen. Now, it seems to be better to go in there and say, Your Honor, I am guilty. The evidence is there. You know I cheated on my taxes. And then maybe bring in pity to say, can you give me a break? I did something wrong. It was tempting. I need every penny I can make. But I am guilty. Now, if this person really was not guilty, they should be giving you reasons, evidence to the court why you're really not guilty. I didn't do that tax reform form. My accountant, you're misunderstanding what he was saying, on and on and on. Okay, I think you get the point of that. Now, let's talk about appeal to pity. Attempting to get an audience to accept a conclusion not because it logically follows, but because it will fulfill the audience's desire for love, esteem, admiration, value, recognition, meaning, excitement, purpose, or acceptance. You're seeing a need and filling it, okay? And it can make people accept what your goal for them is. And a lot of people, they have a lot of needs, and one of them is everybody wants to be loved, right? We want to be esteemed, admired, valued, recognized. We want to be included, okay? Acceptance, okay? We could even write here, if I didn't write it down there, we want to be included in a group that, of course, we want to be part of. We want to be a part of, okay? So there are two. This will make a lot more sense when I give you some examples. There's a direct approach and an indirect approach. The direct approach, the direct appeal to people, is you appeal directly to the emotions of the audience or crowd at hand. The audience accepts the conclusion, here it is again, not because it logically follows, but because they are caught up in the euphoria, camaraderie, belonging of the moment due to the fact that the moment is meeting everybody's need for love, esteem, etc. And a good example was Hitler. Hitler was a master at this. You know, he'd be here, he'd be talking to everybody, here's the masses, and they're all just so caught up in the moment about what he had for Germany, and he knew the Germans had a crushed sense of pride. He says, you know what, during this speech, if I make them feel better about being German and restore national pride, I bet you they won't listen very carefully to my Nazi platform. And the reason these people went after Hitler and accepted his platform is because the whole moment was special. You've got thousands of people cheering, and this is a great moment, so they accept what he says instead of carefully looking at what he's really saying and examining evidence, okay? And here again, Hitler was a good manipulator. He knew what people needed. He knew what they needed, and he knew how to fulfill it. So that's the direct appeal to people, is that you directly just appeal to this crowd, get them all worked up into some kind of a frenzy, and they'll really, you know, go with anything you have to say. The indirect is used a lot in advertising. What this is, appeal is made to the crowd. Appeal is made not to the crowd directly, right? It's not a direct thing like that, but rather to you. So here you are, you're right here, and they are appealing to you through indirectly appealing to this group over here that you want to be a part of. You want to be in there, okay? You want to be numbered as one of this group. So you have some kind of relevant connection to the crowd, meaning you want to be part of that crowd, and you're being persuaded that if you do something, you will be part of that group over there that you admire, want to, you know, really regard highly. So here's some examples. So you see what the indirect approach is. They're appealing to you, but getting you to accept a conclusion by connecting that if you do, it makes you a part of something over here that you admire. The bandwagon argument. This stresses you will be left out of the group over there if you don't accept their conclusion. For example, everybody is involved here except you. Or don't be left out. You are not asked to accept the conclusion because it logically is implied by the premises, but it's more of this indirect, you don't want to be left out, do you? So here's one. Of course you want to buy Zing toothpaste. Why 90% of Americans brush with Zing. Well, you should brush with Zing toothpaste because you've been given some evidence that it's really good toothpaste. And then maybe that's why 90% of Americans brush with it. But just because everybody's brushing with it, you know, sometimes that could be not because it's a good toothpaste, but because they got momentum with advertising, right? Okay, so that's a first indirect method. A second one is the appeal to vanity. You will accept the conclusion because you should be in that rare, small, unique class over there. So here's an example. The few, the proud, the Marines. Not many people become Marines. So here you are, and you admire that and the fact that it's rare and unique. Over here, the Marines. So I'm going to join the Marines because I'll be part of a rare group, not maybe for more carefully thinking this out, maybe how that could benefit your life if you did that. Appeal to snobbery, it's kind of similar to appeal to pity. Let's say the snobs are the aristocracy, people who have a lot of money, who look down on others in a lower social class maybe. Accept the conclusion because you too will be identified with an elite, exclusive class that is only made up of the wealthy and upper crust, the rich, the superior, the aristocratic, of which you should be deserving of membership, okay? So here, a Rolls Royce is not for everyone. If you qualify as one of the select few, this distinguished classic may be seen and driven at British motor cars, okay? So if you get a Rolls Royce, you will be upper crust, right? So they're trying to get you to buy one for that reason. And instead of it's a good car, it will fit your budget, that kind of money for a Rolls Royce still makes a lot of sense. Okay? Both the direct and indirect method have the same basic structure. You want to be accepted, included in the group, loved, esteemed. Therefore, these needs will be used as premises instead of logical reasons in order to get you to accept X, Y, and Z. Okay, we'll stop this one video here, and then the next one I'm going to continue with the remaining fallacies of relevance in section 3.2 that Hurley covers.